I sat across from him, the paper staring back at me like an accusation. My husband, the man I once trusted with my heartbeat, slid the divorce forms toward me. His smirk was too practiced, too calm, as if this were a game he'd already won. He expected me to cry, to beg, to crumble into a puddle of despair. He had invited his closest friends to witness my humiliation. A test, he called it later. I signed quietly. No tears, no words, just ink on paper. Hours later, his closest friend showed up at my door, phone in hand. Every message between them, the plotting, the ridicule, the certainty that I would break, was laid bare. I studied each one, calculated. My husband had finally seen what I already knew. Underestimating me had been his gravest mistake. It hadn't always been this way. I remember the first time I met him, the way he laughed at my terrible jokes, the way his hand lingered in mine as if it belonged there. We built a life, brick by brick, dreaming in whispered plans across sleepless nights. I loved him with a reckless devotion, thinking it was mutual, until it wasn't. The first signs were subtle. He came home later than usual, claiming work. His phone always face down, laughter and messages that didn't include me. At first, I brushed it off. Denial is comforting. But the pieces started falling into place, tiny betrayals forming a pattern I could no longer ignore. I learned to watch, to listen, to observe without giving away my awareness. Shock settled into strategy. I remember the night I decided. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I wrote. Each line of thought precise. What I had, what I could expose, what I could leverage. Every small act I had overlooked in our years together became a weapon. He had underestimated my patience, my intellect, my capacity to wait. Revenge, I realized, wasn't a burst of rage. It was a chess game, and I had just claimed the first move. Step 1. Gather the truth. His friend, unaware of the storm he had unleashed, handed me the messages. Each one cataloged his disdain, the assumptions about my weakness. Step 2. Build my position quietly. I spoke to lawyers who handled everything in hushed tones, assets frozen, transfers delayed, secrets uncovered that he never wanted exposed. I moved like a shadow, invisible but deadly. Each decision deliberate, each step a calculated strike. I didn't need drama, I didn't need confrontation, I needed precision. He would see the collapse in slow motion, the moment-by-moment realization that he had played with fire, and the fire had learned to burn cold. Weeks later, I invited him over. His confidence was intact. Arrogance, not a hint of suspicion. I poured him a drink, let him speak first. He told me how shocked he'd been by my composure, how he'd expected tears. I smiled, small, controlled. Then I let him read. The emails, the drafts of his plans, the transactions frozen at the exact moment he thought he was untouchable. His eyes darted, his mouth opened, then closed. He wanted a fight, but I didn't give him one. I let the evidence speak. Every message was a mirror of his betrayal. Every cold detail reflected his own hubris. "You really thought I'd beg?" I said quietly, letting the words linger like a knife. He swallowed, realizing, slowly. The confidence drained from him, the arrogance, the laughter, all gone. The power he thought he had was gone. Not by shouting, not by tears, but by strategy, by patience, by understanding the game better than he ever could. He had treated marriage like a test, like a wager. I treated it like a battlefield, and I had won. I didn't gloat, I didn't dance in his humiliation. I watched him leave, quiet, broken in a way that no shouting could achieve. He had lost not because of force, but because of foresight. I had shown him the depth of his miscalculation. After the door closed, I sat in the silence, letting it wash over me. Not sorrow, not relief exactly, a strange, potent satisfaction, the kind that comes when injustice is not only recognized, but corrected, when patience and intelligence dismantle arrogance. I felt a power I had almost forgotten I possessed, silent, steady, indomitable. I walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. Life moves fast even when betrayal cuts deep. People would say I had changed. Maybe I had. But I was not less human. I was sharper, wiser, unyielding. I had been tested, and I had answered with precision. There is a moment in every betrayal when the betrayer realizes their miscalculation. That moment is ours to savor quietly, invisibly, as justice does not need applause. It simply needs patience, intellect, and a refusal to be underestimated. I signed the papers that day, but in truth, I had written the final chapter of our story long before. It was not the ink on paper that mattered. It was the ink of understanding, of awareness, of power reclaimed. And in that quiet, I rose.